Hi, scientists. Today we are going to have our notebook set up. You will need the following materials: a glue stick, some crayons, a pencil, your science composition notebook that has your label on the front, and then your yellow science resources folder that's still inside your anchor binder. Remember, you are not to take this out of your anchor binder. I just wanted to make sure that I have it for your reference. We're going to start by opening up our science notebook to the first page inside cover. Just like our other notebooks, I want you to write your own name with an apostrophe S. My apostrophe is part of my son, to show possession, and then the words science notebook. You can use a crayon, you can use a pencil, and then you can add some pictures that help remind you of the things that we will be covering in science. So in science this year, we're going to be talking about the sun and some of our stars and moons. We're going to be investigating by looking closely with our lenses to see what things are going into the different experiments that we'll be having. So you can go ahead and draw some pictures. Remember, you can pause your video at any time to make sure that you're caught up. After you've done your title page, we're going to start by inserting our table of contents. So just like in our other notebooks, we're going to write table of contents in the top right section, and then underlining it. On the left, we're going to write page as a reminder of what page number we can find our lessons in, and then the date that it takes place. We will be focusing on science on Tuesdays and Thursdays instead of working in social studies. After we're done, we're going to put the page numbers. So the first page in our notebook is page 1. The next page of our notebook is going to be an additional table of contents, so we'll just label that with a 2 for now. You flip over, making sure you don't grab more than one page at a time. Looking at the back of page 2 will be page 3, and then the right page will be page 4. That way we are ensuring that we'll have enough space in our table of contents to fit all of the lessons we will have in science this year. Then we're going to go ahead and flip to insert the first page of our setup. So we're going to put a number 5. Once we're done, we're going to then go back to the table of contents to record our first insert. So I'm going to put a number 5 to indicate this is on page 5, and we are going to be inserting what's called our notebook structure. So write notebook structure, and the day is 8-25-20. So we then can go ahead and turn back to page 5. Make sure you're paying close attention that we're not taking more than one page at a time, because if we take too many and then we have all of these blank sheets between our work, then we're going to run out of room quickly and won't have enough space for our lessons. The next thing you're going to do is open up your yellow folder. Remember, don't take it out of your anchor binder, just open it up from your anchor binder. And we're going to go ahead and take a couple pages out. So I'm going to go ahead and take these pages out, and then we're going to close them. So on our page is 5, but this says page 6. So we're going to just exit out and say the correct page is page 5. We're going to then turn this page over to glue it in. So taking your glue stick, you're going to make that border around the edge, and then put an X through the center. Go ahead and smooth it down. So we're going to be focusing on the structure of our notebook, and the structure of our notebook is going to help us understand what is going to be asked to be placed on each side. So we're going to focus on the left sides of our notebook. So the left side of our notebook is going to also be called the structure side. So you're going to write the word structured. This means that it is going to be during our lessons where Mrs. Ling is teaching. It is where we insert new information. So we put structured side. We also sometimes call this the little bit of a boring side. because it's a part where we have to give our undivided focus, that we're not doing our creative activities to help us process. The next part says teacher blank new information by, so the first blank is called provides. And as we're working, if you need to take a few more moments to write something down, remember to pause the video and then start it when you're ready. So when the teacher is providing new information during our lesson, we have to know how that might be presented. So we might have types of notes. The notes could be closed notes like we're doing right now. They could be an outline, so we're only going to list the important information that we need to memorize or to learn. And we might even be able to organize it into 2-column notes. Another part of our structured side might be Mrs. Lane handing you a handout. A handout could be where it's giving us information we're learning or being able to compare multiple items, but it is information that is covered in our lesson for that day. On the right side of our notebook, meaning the right page of our notebooks, this is going to be referred to as the creative side. The creative side is Mrs. Lang's favorite one because it allows us to be a little bit more artistic with our learning. So students, and the first word in this section is process. Process new ideas by, well, we're going to talk about some of those ideas. So one of the ways is reorganizing the new information that I just taught you in our notes or handouts. And we are going to do that in a colorful format. So the next word is colorful. And then we're going to talk about some of the ways that we might show that creativity. So we could have an acrostic poem, and that is where we're using a vocabulary word or an important word for the lesson and then trying to tie definitions or things that are important, such as examples, to each letter of the vocabulary word. We could also have cartoons. We could put drawings in there. We can have charts and graphs. We can include foldables, which is something we're going to use in just a moment, or something called a mind map. And oftentimes in our class, we like to use songs or poems to help us retain information. The last part says expressing. We're going to actually extend this blank to include 2 words, expressing new learning, comma, application, and we have a blank that's missing, and feelings. So it's important for us to learn the content, but we have to be able to retain it by using our different multiple intelligences. So we are going to put the title of our lesson at the top. So I'm going to just rewrite my page number. And this is going to be called, once again, our notebook structure. That way, when we're looking at our table of contents, we know that we're on the right page with the right information. On the next page is going to be the official page 6. And I'm going to flip back to my table of contents. And we just learned information from the boring side, the notes side, telling us what we're doing this year in our notebook. So now we're going to go to the right side and do something more creative. So in our table of contents for page 6, we're going to name this next activity My Science Foldable. And this is once again on 8-25-20. Well, in order to create a foldable, we need to have a piece of paper. Inside of your yellow folder, you open it up. The back page is going to have a blank piece of paper. So we're going to grab that blank piece of paper out. And we are going to be creating this foldable together. So the first thing I need you to do is to fold your paper. If you look at it fat-wise like a hamburger, or I should say a hot dog, but we're going to fold it from one side to the other. So we're going to fold it like a book. So go ahead and fold it like a book. So my crease is on the left and then the opening's on the right. And then I'm going to fold it one more time. This is just to get the creases where I want to have them. So you folded it twice. Remember, you can rewind the video and then push play when you're ready to start. So I folded this twice, so I'm going to open it back up. I'm going to pay close attention to this middle line. That's going to be the back of my foldable. Now I should have 4 sections. The outside 2 sections are going to be coming doors to fold in. So I'm going to fold the right side in, and then the left side is going to be a little bit more difficult just because of the way I folded originally. So now I have 2 doors that open in opposite directions, and when it opens up, I see a big chunk of white space. Now if I fold those doors back closed and I flip it over to the back side that's not opened, this is where I'm going to put my glue stick. So just like we've done in the past, go ahead and put a border or a frame on the outside and crisscross it through the middle. Big chunk of glue stick. Then turn it back over and try to glue it so the bottom is close to the bottom of the page. That way you have enough space to put your title. Ensure that before you glue it down that you have your 2 doors that open from the middle out. Before we start with our creative side, we're going to give it our title from the table of contents, and this is called My Science Foldable. So we just learned some new information about how the notebook was going to be set up. We learned that the left side is the side Mrs. Ling is going to be giving you to teach you information, and in this case, what our notebook is going to look like. And then the right side is going to be your creative process of how to remember what goes on each side. So we're going to do this by taking some notes, but being able to add some color in as well. So the left door is going to be focusing on, well, what goes on the left page of our science notebooks. So when we look at our notes, we can help remember that information that Mrs. Ling's already said. So we said it's the left side. So I'm going to write on my left door, left side. And we even call this our structured side. And structure just means it's very much where Mrs. Ling has it all planned out, and we're following some steps. And because it's structured, we know that we often call it boring, so we're only going to use a pencil for this left door. If you open up your left door, we're going to draw some pictures to show what type of things that Mrs. Ling might give you to put on your left side. So looking back at your notes on the left side page, it said we have notes, closed outlines, 2 column notes. So I'm going to draw some paper, for examples of some paper. So I'm going to draw some boring rectangles. And I'm going to write on the top one that this is going to be considered notes. And then we have some writing. We're going to pretend like that's writing where it's squiggle, squiggle, squiggle. The next one, we can say that it's a 2-column organization. We can also have one that says handouts. And then once again, squiggly lines to indicate there's writing there. So we can see that there's not really a lot going on besides information that we're gluing in and being taught. We also should draw that the left side is only going to be used with a pencil. So you can draw yourself a pencil, but don't color it in with any colors because we want to remember it's a boring kind of structured side. Okay. So if you can't tell what that is, it's a pencil. So our left side is done. It's our structured side. The right side is going to be our more exciting side. So this is when you can get your crayons out and you're still going to follow directions, but you're going to be able to do this in a more creative way. So instead of writing left side, this side is right side. So go ahead and write right side, and some different type of writing as long as it's nice and neat. I'm going to make it a little bit different. And then I'm going to write the word side. Once again, I'm going to just make sure that everything is a teeny bit different, more creative. And then I'm going to write the word creative, just like on the left side I wrote this is structured. So this is called my creative side. So I'm going to put those quotation marks. And I'm writing the word creative. That way I can already see a difference between my structured side and my creative side. Just like we did, we're going to open up this door so we can get some examples in a picture form. So you can use your crayons and alternate to add different colors. So we said that we're going to be learning songs. So I'm going to put some musical notes. We are going to be able to draw some pictures. So I'm going to attempt to draw a very quick sketch of a shark because we're the sharks. So you can see this is only this quick drawing of a shark. And then just shade it in real quick. And then we can show that we are going to structure some of our information by making webs. So that is where we have the center circle is going to be our main idea. And then we have some of those details that come off to the side. We have also our foldables, just like we're making right now. So we have a piece of paper that has that doors, the opening from the middle where we open out. And we could say this is like one of them. So it's a left and right side. And then the last one we're going to record is an acrostic. So we might even have the word science. So we would write that word down from top to bottom. And then we might label each one of these letters with an important part of the word science. So I'm going to do just like we did that quick little scribble to say that each of these would have had a word attached to them. In your own notebook, you could attach a word that reminds you of science to give you even more of an example. So when we look at our foldable again, this is going to be a reminder of how our notebook is going to be set up for science. The left page in each of our lessons is going to be the structured side, the more boring side where we have our notes, handouts, we use only pencils. And then the right side is where you're going to be able to show how you're processing that new information in a creative way by learning songs, having pictures or drawings, being able to organize it in a web, mind maps, and then you can have foldables, and then acrostic poems, just to name a few. So this is our first example of a structured and creative side. The last thing we're going to do today is to insert some important classroom lab expectations and safety. So we're going to go back into our notebook and turn back to our title page and front cover. This is going to be something we reference each time that we perform a lab, so it needs to be in a very special place that we can always find. So if you would, on the inside cover of your notebook, you're going to use your glue stick, and make sure you use a good amount of glue stick because we want to make sure it sticks nice and tight. And use your glue stick, make that frame around the outside again, and this time you can kind of just move it all the way inside. It doesn't have to just be mixed. And then very carefully go ahead and smooth it out. The last thing we're going to look at is just some of those important rules that we need to remember. So at the first part, I'm going to go ahead and highlight, just like we would in our math notebooks, the title as a reminder of what this page is focusing on. And it says Classroom Lab Expectations and Safety. Science labs often provide wonderful hands-on experiences. The success of a lab is dependent on behavior, following instructions, and always being aware of safety in the lab. So some of the things that we need to pay attention to, even though your lab is coming virtually, it will still need to make sure that we're doing these important tasks. So having our lab voices, students may talk to their lab partner or group in lab voices, whispering in a low voice. The teacher must be able to hear across the room in case of an emergency. Food is not allowed in lab unless specifically given by the teacher. You are not allowed to eat any food used in labs unless I tell you it's okay. The third one is know your tools. We will use very specific lab tools for our experiments. Make sure you follow directions for correct usage. So that's why it's important to make sure those listening ears are on. And then be prepared, listen to all the instructions, and follow all steps given. The last part is just general safety rules and expectations. So I'm going to highlight this section just with a different color. And I'm going to read through these. That way we are clear on what those expectations are when we get labs started. The first is to follow all instructions regarding safety and procedures. 2, always ask if you are unsure about something. 3, never work alone in the lab unless instructed to do so. 4, perform only the experiments that you are told to do, so you can't just make your own lab up. You need to make sure that you're only performing the one that we are working on that day. 5, keep your materials organized. And 6, keep neat and organized notes. That way we can make sure that we are writing down the right data so that we can make those correct comparisons and come up with our correct conclusions for the labs. All right, my scientists, thank you for doing a great job. Remember to rewind the video if you did not get to something.